we could do other things with the Lions. Is there anything else worth bringing up other than the one that's sitting right in front of our face, and that's go trade for Myles Garrett? Is there any other?
What, is there another player like that? I mean, I think you could look at a handful of defensive ends and say that that's the player for the Lions.
That would put him. That is okay. Like,
I mean, because you had the big four that were brought up in an article last week of potential guys that are available for trade. We don't know if they are yet or not. We know that Myles Garrett is, but is Max Crosby available for trade? Is Micah Parsons available for trade? What's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati?
So
they have enough money?
The only
so
thing
those
I've
are
seen,
four guys.
Yeah,
that
recently,
same thing
with Trey Hendrickson is a commitment from Cincinnati. They say they're going to try and keep their big three, and I mean, you can say you're going to try. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to fit them all under the cap. And then the question is Hendrickson the one that they move on from? Crosby's fascinating because Crosby feels like he's sending out smoke signals that he wants to come to Detroit. But it's not up to him. It's out of his control. If Max Crosby,
what a player,
Max Garrett. If Max Crosby said, "I want out," that would be a different thing. He hasn't said that, but I mean, there's always cryptic love letters sent to Detroit coming from his socials. Crosby would be a great addition. The accessibility to him is questionable. If Trey Hendrickson, they can't fit him under the cap, that would be a great addition. How many sacks did he have last year? Astronomical amount.
I wanted to say like 16 or something.
Yeah, he would be a fantastic addition if there's a path to get him. I feel the same way about Micah Parsons. Kind of believe it when I see it. Kind of approach towards Micah Parsons. The Garrett thing is the advertisement has been hung. Like it's in the classifieds for sale. Myles Garrett. So all of those guys are correct that there is accessibility, but there's accessibility to one of them as it stands right now.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about you could do it as a trade, I think they're all accessible. It just depends on the offer that you make, right?
Yeah, I mean, I realistically, what would you have to trade to get Micah Parsons?
If the Cowboys know they can't sign him to a long-term deal because they've got everybody else they got too. I mean, it's you're looking at the same package it is for Myles Garrett.
See, the difference is I don't think the Cowboys think of themselves at the beginning of a rebuild. I think Cleveland understands that they are in jail because of for the next 2 years because of the Deshaun Watson contract.
If
$70 million wasted dollars against the cap.
I mean, this is the tough part if you're the Lions. I was actually having a discussion with my brother yesterday about Myles Garrett and other players they could add and what would it take. The problem is that the Lions are picking at the end of the draft, and that if the player they pick up, if they pick up a Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby, they're still going to be drafting at 28 or higher.
Yeah,
because that's the player that puts them over the top. So that's the problem because it's not an appealing draft pick.
Nope.
Having a number one pick sounds great until you find out where it is. So realistically, what would it take to trade for one of those guys? I mean, you're talking, you start at least at 2 first-round picks, and then you have to come up with some other capital. Would it be 2 first-round picks and a player?
Yeah.
Is it 2 first-round picks and Jamison Williams, 2 first-round picks and and Jack Campbell? Is it 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick and somebody else? And you really have to build it up to make it worth.
I think you'd have to cut into your core players because I don't think Dallas and Cincinnati think of themselves in rebuilds. The Vegas Raiders could and should, but there's no indication that they are. Cleveland obviously is, and so they are more. They can be sold on draft capital, and more so than I think Dallas or Cincinnati.
Dave Burkett had something interesting to say. He had a mock draft 1.0, and with his pick for the Raiders, it was not a quarterback, and his reasoning was that the Raiders didn't hire their coach to come on over and rebuild. That's not what Pete Carroll's there for. Yeah. Pete Carroll is there to win now, meaning that they wouldn't draft a quarterback or have a rookie quarterback to start. They're likely to have some veteran player, whether it's Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or whomever it is, to go ahead and start there. So does Pete Carroll come over to the Raiders only to see Max Crosby, their best player, leave?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
Yep.
But I think Cincinnati's the team to watch and see what happens with Hendrickson. And if he ends up getting to free agency, because he is technically a free agent, right? He's getting there. Cincinnati wants to bring him back, but they haven't signed him to an extension yet. So is that the most realistic option?
Trey Hendrickson is under contract this coming year.
For the 25 season?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. For how much is it?
Give me a second here. He's an $18.66 million cap hit.
And it's his last season.
Yep. And he's at that age where declining production, but declining from 17.5 sacks is still acceptable in Detroit, opposit of Hayden Hutchinson.
I mean, you look at that and I don't know if they can hang on to that kind of a cap number when you've got other players that you want to re-sign, particularly to make the offense happy and to make the quarterback happy. I don't know if they can do it, so keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it's whether or not. So the headlines over the weekend was that Cincinnati is putting together long-term contracts for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson, and that came from ESPN over the weekend. If they can't pull that off, yeah, it might open up the path to Hendrickson. I still think Cincinnati would be less interested in your draft picks and interested in your core players, and I don't know that makes it like the Lions are in that spot where, here, take our draft picks. And the team that seems most likely to take him is still Cleveland. But, and you're right. If the Raiders aren't into a rebuild, they don't want your draft picks either. They want your core players, and that might just take it off the table of making a trade like that. However, so that's sort of where the Lions are in the over-the-top move.